Do you know what that theme song means? That's right. It's another episode of the Senator Omer Raines Show. We invite you to listen to us at 1180 AM KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast radio station, as well as around the world on americamatters.us. The creator and the host of the show invite you to come join us here at the Reno Town Mall. Get in the audience or get behind a microphone. You can also text in questions to our chief engineer, Craig Moss, at 775-237-2266. But if you would like to speak with Senator Omer Raines or his guests, that number is 844-790-TALK. Again, it's 844-790-8255. Without further ado, let's get to the creator and host of the Senator Omer Raines Show, Senator Omer Raines.
Hello, folks. I'm Omer Raines, welcoming you to America Matters Media, broadcasting this program live to the world, not only in English, but by way of translation in various other languages as well. Now, as listeners of this program know, by my choice, it is intentionally eclectic in nature, and thus it does not focus solely on one topic or subject matter. Moreover, whatever the topic, whomever the guest, we encourage diverse points of view. Therefore, we welcome comments or questions from the listening audience. Again, the call-in number is 844-790-8255. Or, if you wish to text us your comment or question, that number is 775-237-2266. Okay, with that in mind, I want to introduce today's guest, Dr. Alan Walker, president of Sierra Nevada College, Tahoe. SNC, better known, is the academic jewel of the Sierras, and gotten increasingly important coverage recently, not only locally, but I think nationally. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Senator Raines. It's great to be on the air with you again this afternoon, calling in from our principal campus here in Incline Village, Nevada, on what turned out to be sort of a surprisingly snowy day here. We had a 2-hour delay, and we're still digging out here after having received anywhere from a foot to 2 feet or 2.5 feet of snow, depending on what elevation you are going uphill from the lake. So it's been quite a day here so far.
Well, it's been quite a winter. The meteorologists say that this is historic in nature and maybe the most significant winter, if you will, to put it mildly, since 1991. So the atmospheric conditions change rapidly, and we're going to talk about that, among other things. Let me just say, by way of further introduction of Dr. Walker, and Dr. Walker, may I call you Alan?
Absolutely, Omer.
And I'm Omer, right. Alan got his undergraduate degree at the University of Idaho, his master's and PhD at the University of Kansas. He's held academic posts at a number of colleges and universities, some of great distinction: University of Kansas, Louisiana State University, Upper Iowa, Shawnee State College in Ohio, and so on and so forth, before he came to Sierra Nevada College, which we hope has been his last migration, and academic migration anyway. So let's start simply by, Alan, remind us that you were here, guest, about 4 months ago, but why have you selected Sierra Nevada College?
Well, thanks, Omer. Yeah, I've had an opportunity through the years to be on the staff at a number of institutions around the country, but I started my career in Idaho. As you mentioned, I went to the University of Idaho, finished a bachelor's and master's degree there, and actually my first degree was an associate's degree in fire science from the College of Southern Idaho in Twin Falls. So, at this point in my career, coming back to this part of the country after having been in the Midwest for about 30 years, for me, on a personal note, was an opportunity literally to come home. My parents are still living. They live in Idaho, and this is the first time in 30 years, for example, that I've lived within a day's drive of my parents. So that's pretty special as they get up in their upper years. But on a professional side, Omer, throughout my higher education career in administration, I've spent a number of those years in public institutions of higher education and a number of those years on the private side of nonprofit higher education. And in fact, this is my second presidency, having served as president of Upper Iowa University for 8 years, which is like Sierra Nevada College. It is a private nonprofit university located in Iowa. And I have to tell you that I really enjoyed being on the private nonprofit side of higher education, and in particular, I've always enjoyed being on smaller campuses. If you're president of a major research institution, for example, with 30 or 40,000 students, at best you can only ever get to know a fraction of those students, and faculty and staff for that matter, on a personal level. But here at Sierra Nevada College, you know what? I know a lot of students here and all the faculty and staff, and that's the kind of environment that I've always enjoyed.
Well, before we go to our first commercial break, and I realize it's quite early, I would like you, when we come back, to tell us the difference between a public education, post-secondary in nature, secondary and post-secondary, because you were primarily in public schools throughout your early life, and now you're in a private college setting, and you were on one prior occasion. So I'd like you to explain the difference, and you've partly done that right now. We're going to go to a commercial break. I'm going to ask the audience to stay tuned briefly. We've got a great program ahead. We'll be right back.
This is Rick Parr, Director of Sales and host of Talking Sports on America Matters Media. Listen up. We are looking for some good people to sell advertising with us. America Matters Media is our area's community radio network based right here in Reno and heard all over the world with excellent programming throughout the week. If you have sales experience or a great personality with positive attitude and can communicate well, call us at 775-827-8900. We'll train you on how to get the deal done. You'll earn money immediately on every sale you make and on every renewal. The facts are that every business needs help getting the word out about their products and services, and radio ads help them do just that by letting our listeners know where to go to get the best deals in town. We want you to help us bring our clients and listeners together with advertising sales. Call now, 775-827-8900. That's America Matters Media, 827-8900.
Do you need high-quality estate planning and family law services? I'm Reno attorney Todd Torvinen. I practice in the areas of estate planning, probate, family law, and divorce taxation. I'm also experienced in probate and family law litigator and believe that prevailing in any litigation requires diligent, methodical preparation. As a certified estate planning law specialist and certified public accountant, I'm singularly qualified to analyze the financial aspects of marital, family assets, or a decedent's estate. A large part of my practice is done in real time. It means that preparation of estate planning and family law documents occurs with the client present, and they're reviewed with the client at the time the client is there. Your documents are examined line by line and explained to you, then modified based upon your input. This client-focused approach leverages the current technology and enhances the attorney-client communication and relationship. The idea is to produce a better product. Please call me at 775-825-6066 to schedule an appointment today. Again, 775-825-6066.
Hi, I'm Bill Kendall. I've practiced law in Northern Nevada for over 25 years, and I specialize in representing injured people in their fights for just compensation and in representing parents in custody and visitation disputes. I've tried over 20 jury trials to verdict. I've arbitrated or mediated hundreds of personal injury cases on behalf of clients to successful conclusions, and I have personally handled every single case from start to finish. I am also a court-appointed mediator for the Washoe County Family Court Division, where I help parents negotiate custody and visitation plans. With me as your attorney, you can rest assured that your case will be handled competently and that I will be responsive to all of your needs and questions. My goal in every case is to have clients that are satisfied with the outcome of their case and who would recommend me to others. Give me a call at 775-324-6464 or visit my website, billkendalllaw.com. My number again is 775-324-6464.
Alan, when we went to break, you were beginning to describe some of the differences between a public and a private post-secondary education. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure, that's a great question. You know, Omer, one of the things that makes higher education in the United States still the jewel of the world and highly coveted among other countries, part of that is because we're so diverse, and so there's an awful lot of choice. So, there's 3,000 or 4,000 institutions of higher education in the United States, both public, supported through public dollars, and private institutions like SNC. That diversity is what helps makes higher education in the United States so highly coveted around the world. And it just so happens in Nevada, for example, Sierra Nevada College is Nevada's only private institution of Nevada-based private institution of higher education. And the primary difference, Omer, between the two is simply the fact that public institutions of higher ed receive public tax dollars in a direct way to support their operations, whereas private institutions of higher education receive no public tax dollars directly, in our case from the state of Nevada, for example. So that's the primary difference. But I will tell you also, particularly in the case of Sierra Nevada College, private colleges like ours still serve the public interest in an important way, even though we don't receive public tax dollars state support towards our mission. So I'll give you an example of one way we do that. One of our strongest programs, in fact, it accounts for almost half of our enrollment, our total annual enrollment, are our teacher education programs, which are offered through our satellite campuses in Reno and in Vegas. And we all know that Nevada has a teacher shortage and needs teachers desperately. So we help meet that state and public interest need through our teacher education program. So we serve the public interest just like the state-supported institutions of higher education in the state of Nevada. And that's the primary difference.
Well, with that in mind, let me ask the following. I consider Thomas Friedman, if you will, for lack of a better expression, the literary futurist of this generation. And I gather that starting with his international bestseller, The World is Flat. When was that? About a decade ago. So I've begun to pick up all of his books, and 2 days ago I picked up the most recent one, Thank You for Being Late, An Optimist's Guide to Thriving in the Art of Acceleration. And it's a large compendium, so I've not gotten that far into it after a day and a half and doing other things. But the real thesis, as I gather, is that we are seeing the convergence of the three greatest threats facing the world today: climate change, globalization, and technology, and that they are all accelerating at warp speed. And given that, how does that increase the challenges facing higher education in general?
Well, I think you make a good point there, and I remember when Thomas Friedman came out with his original book, The World is Flat. At the time I was president of another university, and all of my senior executive staff, as well as our board of trustees, read that book, and it formed the basis for conversation regarding some of our strategic planning we did. So I'm a fan too. I think there's some real insightful things that Thomas Friedman has had to say over the years, and I agree. That convergence is happening. And I think it's interesting because there is a fourth convergence, at least as it relates to the United States. And frankly, I think that's the outcome of the recent presidential election. I think it has introduced yet another change that's taking place in terms of how this new administration is going to affect the higher ed landscape in terms of funding for public higher education, in terms of what happens in terms of regulations, which, as you know, higher education is a highly regulated enterprise, both in terms of accreditation and federal regulations, which are tied to Pell Grants, for example. And, I think the watchword these days is I think the higher education community is looking for some signs of what direction the new administration is going to go as it relates to what impacts higher ed. I think the higher education community is looking for some element of predictability and consistency. But, I think we're also prepared for some changes that are likely to occur that I think will continue to emerge from the new administration, particularly timed with appointments of some of the cabinet appointments that we're seeing. So, probably if you've done these interviews over the last few decades, I would imagine that every college president has talked about, it's almost become a cliche to talk about being in times of great change and so forth. And that may have been the perception as long ago as several decades ago. But I've been in higher ed administration now for a little over 30 years, and to be honest with you, I can't think of a time during that period that seemed more in a state of change than we're experiencing right now.
Probably that would be true throughout the history of the entire world. I mean, I think Toffler had it right when he talked about the fact that by the time we accommodate to one new technological change, we're overwhelmed by a series of others within a matter of months. And that is frightening to those of us who who are a bit longer in the tooth than the young people. And that's got to affect changes in the challenges facing higher education in general.
That's right. And Omer, to be candid with you, higher education isn't necessarily known for nimbleness and making change quickly. I mean, some of these institutions go back hundreds of years. And in fact, if you did a study going back to the founding of this country and you looked at what kinds of institutions have survived the longest over the last several hundred years, nonprofit institutions like colleges and universities, churches, as well as corporations, I think you would be surprised at what that mix looks like. The last time I looked at this kind of data, there were a lot of institutions of higher ed who have been around hundreds of years now, as compared to, for example, on the private side, when you look at corporate histories, for example. And I think one of the reasons for that is higher education takes a very considered approach to change. They look at it from a consensus viewpoint. They look at it from all angles. They study it. All of that results in a slower pace of change. Now, I think that's both good and bad. So I think on the pro side, higher ed, taken as a whole, is less apt to make major strategic mistakes because they take a consensus view of things and they do study things before they make radical change. But that takes a long time. And that's the con side, is that higher ed has a tendency sometimes to react slowly to market changes, to external changes in their environment, and frankly, at times that has also hurt higher ed. So it's an interesting dynamic of tug and pull when it comes to that.
Well, it would seem, and I think this is consistent with what you're suggesting, that the longer and more established universities, those with the longest history and the greatest endowments, also because of their very size, become highly bureaucratized, and the smaller colleges seem to be more nimble and adept at change. And that makes sense to me. I mean, that's true throughout the world. But, I bought an iPhone 7 Plus recently and was told at that time that there's more power, computing power, in this small little widget than we had in the rockets that took man to the moon. I mean, that is just an astonishing development in a short period of time. And
exactly.
That's the type of thing that you and your colleagues are faced with. You've got to be able to change quickly.
So that's exactly right. That's exactly right, Omer. And at the beginning of the show, you asked me what attracted me to SNC, and I talked a little about some personal aspects. But on the professional side, here again, one of the things I've always enjoyed about smaller private colleges and universities like this one and the previous one I was president of is these private nonprofits like Sierra Nevada College have the opportunity to be a little more nimble and to be a little more responsive to market forces, change in the external environment, and so forth. And frankly, I've enjoyed these environments versus being in the larger, more stoic, bureaucratic sort of environments that you have sometimes at larger institutions. So that's certainly one of the things that have attracted me to Sierra Nevada College. Sierra Nevada College has always had a history of adapting to change. I mean, I'll give you a great example. You know, this current campus that I'm sitting in here and looking out of my office has only been around here a dozen years. But this college actually started in 1969 at a different location in Incline Village, fondly known, as the Mountain Campus. And about 12, 14 years ago, they had an opportunity to relocate, and that's no small undertaking. That's a huge physical change for any organization. But they did it because they're nimble. Now, could you imagine relocating an institution, a flagship major research institution like LSU or University of Kansas or University of Washington? Can't do it. So, I mean, that's a physical example, but there are also programmatic examples and other kinds of examples of how Sierra Nevada College has its small size has allowed it to be more responsive to change, and I think that's a real positive, especially in this day and age of the kinds of things we're talking about here.
Okay, Alan, we're going to go to our second commercial break, but when we return, I'd like to talk to you about the problems that post-secondary education is experiencing because of the lack of an adequate education at lower levels, elementary and secondary. But we're going to go to a break. Audience, please stay back with us. We'll be right back.
So you think this chip is nothing to worry about? Well, at Safelite, we know sooner or later, every chip will crack. These friends were on a trip when their windshield got chipped. So they scheduled at Safelite.com. They didn't have to change their plans or worry about a thing. I'll see you in a little bit. And I fixed it right away with a strong repair they can trust. Plus, with most insurance, a Safelite repair is no cost to you. Really? Being there whenever you need us, that's another Safelite advantage.
Safelite Repair, Safelite Replace.
Healthcare is a phrase that gets tossed around a lot these days. From politicians in Washington to your physician right here in town, everyone seems to have a different conception of what it means. At Zephyr Wellness, it means recognizing individuals as human beings and meeting them where they are. It also means helping people identify and solve their problems, rather than merely coping with their symptoms. The team at Zephyr believes that good mental health care deals with the whole person and not just outward behaviors. Hundreds of people across all demographics have already discovered Zephyr's compassionate and talented clinical team. If you're struggling with family issues, substance abuse, depression, anxiety, or are just simply not where you want to be in life, call Zephyr Wellness at 775-525-1616 to schedule an appointment, or visit the website at www.zephyrwellness.org. Zephyr Wellness has offices in Reno and Silver Springs and proudly takes most insurance plans. Again, that's 775-525-1616 or zephyrwellness.org.
Talking to Victor from Precision Diamonds. Victor, we have talked before about the fact that you started 27 years ago in Park Lane Mall in a little kiosk. You are now in your own building across the street from the convention center. You've had to do something right.
Well, you know, as we like to think that hard work, you like to think that it does pay off. But you get lucky along the way. You worked hard, you pay attention, and you get yourself ready. So hopefully when the right opportunity comes up to buy a beautiful building like we just have, you triple your size, you cut your overhead by half, and now you know that you're more competitive than ever.
Plus, you've had a chance to use all of the things you learned from that little kiosk in Park Lane Mall.
Oh, man, along the way, I'll tell you, as far as writing that lease check every month, boy, there were times that it was really hard to do. You know, so you learn from your landlords, and it was really great feeling to say goodbye to the landlord. This has allowed us to truly become your local jeweler, your personal shopper.
Thank you, Victor. Precision Diamonds, your local jeweler across from the convention center.
Hi, I'm Pascal from Safelight. My customer's daughter was driving when a rock flew up and chipped her windshield. They wanted it repaired right before it could crack, so they scheduled online at safelight.com. Safelight's repair resin fills the chip's tiniest microcracks. No other resin lasts longer or stays stronger. There's even a national lifetime warranty. Plus, thanks to his insurance, a Safelight repair was no cost to him.
Really?
Call or schedule online.
Safelight Repair, Safelight Replace.
Alan, welcome back. You know, we were talking as we left about the lack of perhaps satisfactory education at lower levels in this nation. It dismays me constantly to read these international statistics that always show us way down from a nation-state standpoint when it comes to reading, writing, arithmetic, history, geography, what have you. I saw this past week a test that was administered in 1912 to fourth graders. And it was really, I thought, a simple test, multiple choice, and they were required to pass it. Examples off the top of my head. Dwight D. Eisenhower, later become President of the United States, was Allied commander and Chief of Staff during whatever war. And they gave you the options, Revolutionary War, War of 1812, Civil War, World War II. And most people, 1 out of 10 today, answered that correctly. I'm talking about adults. Who invented the telephone? Da Vinci, Newton, Einstein, Alexander Graham Bell's in there somewhere, which obviously is the right, I shouldn't say obviously, it is the right answer. But again, about 10% were able to answer that. And mathematics, you know, if you divided 350,000 by 4, what do you get? I mean, the answer is pretty simply 87,500. Most people weren't getting that. That really bothers me. Now, how are colleges approaching that when they get students of that nature and they're having to deal with parents who are no better informed, better ready to be an educated and literate public, which a democracy requires, than it seems to be the case? What are you folks doing?
Yeah, you know, this has been a topic of discussion, debate, research, study, and writing in higher ed now for probably the last maybe 2 decades, Omer, and it's a complex scenario here. Let me just start off by making a couple comments. First of all, you know, sometimes when you get into these discussions about the perceived lack of preparation of students coming out of the K-12 system going into colleges and universities, sometimes it's, you know, there's a lot of finger pointing from higher ed back down to K-12 saying, well, you know, we can't do our job because K-12 hasn't done its job. It's not as simple as that, Omer, and I would say this. The changing socioeconomic and demographic profiles of our society are affecting both K-12 and higher education. And if we're ever going to solve this problem, if we're going to be ever effective at addressing it, K-12 and higher education really have to look at each other as partners. We're really in this boat together, and our fates are tied. And here's one example of how higher ed is impacted by this, just as an example. So it's not unusual when you go across the country, particularly when you visit public higher institutions of higher education, that you find massive amounts of resources and time and energy being spent on remedial education for incoming freshmen that are coming to a university. Shawnee State, for example, where I just came from in Ohio, which has an open access policy in terms of admission, 40% of the incoming freshman class were not prepared to take college-level courses. 40%.
UNR has announced much the same statistic.
Exactly. So public dollars, keep in mind now, public dollars have to be spent then on providing remedial math, English, and writing to bring students, and these are K-12 graduates, high school graduates up to speed before they can even begin to take college-level courses, before they can begin to even start to accumulate credits towards a degree. So it's a huge, huge issue. But I'm not an expert on K-12 administration, but I do know that we have to work closely with K-12 in order to address the issue. And so, for example, a lot of colleges and universities, Sierra Nevada College included, we have relationships with high schools, for example, in offering dual credit programs, in offering advanced placement programs. I know SNC has that kind of relationship with Incline High, for example, one that we continue to place a lot of importance on. And you mentioned it yourself at the beginning of this question. A whole lot of this can be traced back, in my opinion, to what's going on in the nuclear families in terms of some of the sociology there and the development of our young people, and the kind of family experience they're getting and so forth. It's not just a higher ed problem. It's not just a K-12 problem. The problem is bigger than that. I think what we're seeing here are the symptoms of a larger, more complex problem and change that have occurred in society itself, and it's just manifesting itself in terms of what you're citing regarding the test results and the kind of challenges K-12 has and in higher ed.
Well, I certainly recognize, and we all do, that because we are a beacon to the world, we are a nation of migrants, we have a diverse population, that there are language problems, there are cultural problems, and people coming are confronted by incredible costs of higher education in general. And I'm sure all that factors into the equation. But yet we have to deal with it because it is the reality. And I do know that Sierra Nevada College is making all sorts of steps to approach those problems. And you mentioned the collaborative arrangements. Why don't you touch upon some of those, and we'll talk a bit about Sierra Nevada College.
Well, I'll give you an example of the most recent one, in addition to the kind of relationship we have, for example, with the Incline High School. Another way we've created a seamless pathway to provide greater access and more affordability to higher education is our fairly new relationship and partnership we have with Lake Tahoe Community College down on the South Shore. And so, that community college has students there who are enrolled through the community college for the first 2 years, but a significant number of those students have aspirations to go beyond that and eventually earn a 4-year degree. And unless they go online to do that, keeping in mind that a number of them are pretty place bound. They're working down there in the South Shore, either in the ski industry or the gaming, hospitality industry or something like that, or they have family and they're going to school part-time, so they're somewhat place-bound. So once they finish their 2-year degree, if they want to go on to a 4-year degree, unless they do it online, and that's isn't necessarily for everybody, their choices are pretty limited because it would require them to physically uproot their life on the South Shore and go to a 4-year institution and transfer as a transfer student, physically relocate. Our partnership with Lake Tahoe Community College provides an opportunity for students to earn a 4-year degree, and all they have to do is walk across the hall, because we're taking the next 2 years towards that 4-year degree. We're taking that to them physically through our faculty and staff. And the community colleges has allowed us to use their facilities, but we're delivering SNC upper division courses towards those 4-year degrees for students down the South Shore who want to finish.
So Lake Tahoe Community College, I think you're saying, is providing the infrastructure for SNC to provide a 4-year university or college experience. Am I reading that?
That's exactly right, and that's a pretty innovative partnership. I mean, there are lots of colleges and universities who have articulation agreements with community colleges, where students can go to a community college the first 2 years and then physically transfer to a 4-year institution. That's pretty commonplace. What's unique about this partnership is we're taking it to them on the campus of the community college, and that's somewhat unique around the country. It's made possible, you hit it right on the head, it's made possible when the community college, for example, agrees to let us use their offices, the classroom space. And it's a win-win, because what the community college is able to do then is market this opportunity to their prospects, and they can say to a prospective student that's thinking about coming to Lake Tahoe Community College, they can say to that prospect, look, if you come to Lake Tahoe Community College, you can actually earn a 4-year degree here because we have this partnership with Sierra Nevada College, and you don't even necessarily have to go up to Incline or do some online thing. You can do it all right here. So that's a win for them. So it's a great kind of partnership. It's one that I've used at a couple of other institutions of higher education, and we're going to build on that going forward. I think it makes for great public policy, and that's the key thing here, because what it does is it provides the seamless pathway, and it also lowers the cost of higher education overall. Because we're able to use and leverage existing facilities, we can pass on some of those cost savings onto those students, so it's less expensive for them.
Okay, Alan, we're going to take our very last commercial break. When I come back, I do want to talk to you about the degree that you offer, if it's a Sierra Nevada College, accredited college degree, or what is the degree offered if a student really gets the last 2 years at the community college. We're going to take a break. Audience, this is a great program. Please stay back. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Are you caring for an older person or a loved one who needs assistance? Paragon Home Resources can help you maintain their independent living for as long as possible anywhere in the United States. We offer property management services to deal with all facets of maintaining the current home. We can also assist with obtaining a reverse mortgage to free up home equity to pay for home care and other needs. And should your loved one require assisted living or a move-in with a family member, we can handle the details of selling the home for the best possible price. Paragon Home Resources can assist with helping you sort belongings to determine which will be kept and those that require an estate sale or donation to charity. Your Paragon Home Resources coordinator will be accessible through a convenient toll-free number. As part of our service, you'll get a needs assessment to determine the services that are necessary. Caring for a loved one doesn't have to be stressful. Call Paragon Home Resources to learn more. 1-855-474-7227 or visit us at ParagonHomeResources.com.
Struggling with student loans? Do you owe more than $5,000 in federal student loans? Currently graduated or are no longer in school? If so, listen carefully. The government has programs available that can lower your monthly payments in half, and in many cases even eliminate them completely. You heard that right, $0 a month. Let us handle all your document preparation needs and stand beside you in submitting an application for approval to these great federal student loan programs. We will review your situation and together take the steps to avoid possible wage garnishment, being denied or not filing accurately or on time. We also specialize in permanent disability discharge, school closure forgiveness, and public service loan forgiveness. So give us a call at 855-301-8111. Policy changes and qualifications restrictions change on a regular basis. So give us a call today before it's too late at 855-301-8111. Once again, that's 855-301-8111.
So I get up to go to work. Good day, going down my stairs. I lock my car and get in my car, and I look in my passenger seat and I say, what is all that glass?
She wasn't happy that her car was broken into, put it that way.
I can't believe this has happened, and it was going to be a good day.
When I pulled up, I had the windshield. When I explained to her that the part I had was the wrong part, her whole day was just messed up.
I thought he was going to say, we'll get it done for you tomorrow.
They said we didn't have it in Capitol Heights, we have it in Virginia. I said, well, I can go to Virginia, pick up the part, and then go back to her later on that day.
That was completely, to me, above and beyond, and I didn't expect him to do it, but I really appreciated that he did. He was straightforward, hardworking, just ready to do the job and ready to help.
I'm not doing this for the glory, but I made somebody's day, and it feels good.
Start the last segment. We're going to have to do a Sierra Nevada College Quick Step or a Rocky Mountain Quick Step or whatever one wants to call it in order to get through what I would like to talk about. Let's go to the question of whether or not you're looking at programs similar to Lake Tahoe Community College elsewhere. I think of Sierra Nevada College in Rockland. They've got a satellite campus in Truckee. There's the Western Nevada and Carson City, Truckee Metals in Reno, American River College in Sacramento, and so on and so forth. To what extent are you looking to expand that type of approach, which I think would be quite innovative, especially here in the western part of our country?
Yeah, Omar, our vision is to develop a network of these satellite locations on the campuses of community colleges, and I've had some conversation with a number of them, about half a dozen of them in the region, both on the California side and on the Nevada side. And as we move forward in future shows, we'll be talking about the rollout, I'm sure, the rollout of the expansion of this kind of a model beyond Lake Tahoe Community College. And I might mention, too, that, Lake Tahoe Community College, of course, is just across the border in California, and you mentioned a little bit earlier about accreditation and so forth. So Sierra Nevada College, when we formed this partnership, had to seek and was granted approval by the state of California to offer a four-year degree there through this partnership, and we're also approved to do so through our accreditor here as well. So to answer your question, the students end up with the same degree accredited by the same agency, approved by the same agencies as students who finish the four-year degree here on the main campus at Incline.
Okay, I think that's terrific. Let's segue over to the importance of students coming from abroad. Silicon Valley, for example, is going crazy right now because they realize that, and it goes back to what we've been discussing, that the training for students here in America from a technological standpoint often is behind those in certain other countries. And Silicon Valley high tech needs some of those people, and we benefit greatly by their presence. To what extent are you folks connecting overseas, trying to outreach to people, whether it be in China or Japan, or whether it be Latin America or Africa or elsewhere in Europe, and so forth? I mean, people do want to come to America. They do. And to what extent are you doing your best to get the best and brightest here?
Yeah, you're right. They do want to come to America, and it goes back to the conversation earlier in the show. The United States still is looked upon as having the best higher ed system in the world. Everybody knows it, and so they want to send their children here for their degrees, and that's still the case. And so, Sierra Nevada College, we have a relatively small student population on the main campus here in Incline. It's roughly 500 or so, but there's always been a contingent of those that have been international students, and they come here in a variety of ways. We've had some Chinese students here, Asians, Europeans. Sometimes they're here connected with some of our athletic teams. For example, I know there are a number of students who are on our men's and women's alpine ski teams that are from Europe. We've had members of our soccer team from South America. We've had contingent of some Chinese students, and I think some of that is likely to grow as, for example, as China prepares for the Winter Olympics that are going to be coming for them in the next few years. I know they're looking to invest heavily in their ski industry, which is sort of something that is very in an incipient stage, but projected for major growth. And because we have such a strong ski resort management program, one of the few in the country, we're bound to see more international students as a result of that as well. And I think the value, and you've touched on it in this program. The value of that is this: the more diverse a campus is, the more rich the experience it is for students, because there's a strong likelihood that the typical Sierra Nevada College graduate during their professional life will be in an environment that's very diverse. So many corporations, for example, compete or do business on a global level, particularly in Silicon Valley, as we all know. And so they're going to be exposed to this diversity, and having an opportunity to get accustomed to that and to have that experience even when they're in college before they get out into their professional lives puts them that much more at an advantage as compared to students who don't have that kind of experience. Because frankly, as you and I both know, that's diversity is the real world out there.
And given globalization, not only is the real world, but here and now of the real world.
That's exactly right. So I've always had an affinity for internationalization. I think partly because in my own personal life, I was a military dependent. My father had a career in the Army, and I spent half my life growing up in other countries: Germany, Italy. I spent part of my high school years in Izmir, Turkey. So, when I look back at that experience and how valuable it was to me, even in my current professional life, an invaluable experience. I mean, there's no substitute for it. You have a much broader view and perspective. I think it gives you so much, it contributes so much to your skill set. So I understand the value of it, and I'm a strong proponent of it.
Well, in what way, and we're going to have to really cut this short, but in what way is Sierra Nevada College connecting with students overseas?
Well, again, one way is through our ski resort management program, again, as China continues to ramp up for the Winter Olympics that they're planning for, and then through the kind of exposure we have through some of our international students that are connected through athletics, which sort of points to one of the roles that even athletics plays on college campuses, brings in some of that valuable diversity that we were talking about earlier. So those are some of the ways, and we spend some resources recruiting international students also to come to the main campus here at Incline as well.
Okay, Alan, before we conclude, you brought it up. Let's talk a bit about athletics, because I know that's very dear to your heart, especially now that Sierra Nevada College has NAIA membership certification.
That's right. That's been a big milestone in the development of the college. We became a formal member of the NAIA, which is the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. It's one of the two large national organizations, the NCAA and the NAIA. And to do that, a couple of years ago, the college added 6 new sports. We belong to, for the first time ever, we belong to an athletic conference called the CalPAC, which is made up of primarily colleges and universities in California and some in Arizona. And it's a mix of small private colleges and universities like SNC, as well as some larger public universities as well. And so we compete in the CalPAC. It really has been one of those milestones that any college and university, as they're growing and developing, reach at some point. Many of them years and years ago. But in our case,
very quickly tick off those sports in which you do now have organized programs and intercollegiate competition.
Yeah. So,
and by the way, I'm going to give you an opportunity to also tell about your own skiing exploits, because they are significant.
Yeah. So we have men's and women's soccer, for example, men's lacrosse. We have golf. There are 6 of these sports that we're required to have in order to be an NAIA member and member of the CalPAC. And there are, like I said, all 6 of these were added fairly recently. And in terms of my own experience, as you know, Each season I compete as a NASTAR skier and race, which is they're sponsored by SQUA. And so I've got 2 more weekends to qualify for the national championships, which I've gone to over the years in Steamboat, Colorado this March. So I'm looking forward to that, as well as traveling with our team when they compete in their national championships, which are going to be at Mount Bachelor in Oregon early in March, the USCSA. In fact, I'll be doing an exhibition race with one of the radio hosts who's a real icon at USCSA. So we're going to put on an exhibition race, so that'll be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to hoping again that I can qualify for nationals at NASTAR and carry the SNC name to that event.
Very quickly, in in your age group, what have you accomplished in the last 2 years at the NASTAR event?
Well, I've qualified for the national championships the last 4 years, which have been, that's how long I've been racing, is 4 years. So I've been very fortunate, and two seasons ago I took a silver medal in my bracket division. Last year was a tough year for me. I didn't make the podium. This year I'm hoping to go back, and I'm still trying for gold, Omer. And if I don't get it this year, I'll try again next year.
Okay, good luck. Well, listen, as we close, I'm going to provide you an opportunity to give contact information for people who want to or interested in looking further into Sierra Nevada College, either contacting you directly or the college or the admissions office or what have you. That's up to you.
Absolutely, yeah. The best way to do that, we have a terrific website. It really gives people a good overview of what we're about and what we do and why we're so unique and why we can provide a great, high-quality, affordable educational experience. You just go to www.sierranevada.edu, or if you're just surfing the web, just type in Sierra Nevada College or College Lake Tahoe. I mean, we are the only 4-year institution on the lake, so it's pretty easy to find us on the web, and you can learn a lot about the college and what we have to offer.
Great. Thank you so kindly for being our guest today. Very, very good education, and I don't mean that in a humorous way. It's simply a good, informative program. You have a fine week and a fine semester. We'll talk soon.